social distancing and dealing with the coronavirus, we don't really know what the timeline is going to look like at this stage. Currently we're on the stay at home, stay safe order until April 13th, but I think that we all know that it's likely going to be extended. We don't know for how long it will be extended. So Lynn from the Community Foundation at the last meeting had asked everybody if we could spend some time during this conversation today thinking about how we tweak our neighborhood projects in preparation for the Neighborhood Small Grants Program, spend some time kind of brainstorming what types of activities we can do while social distancing this season. So I would just like to open it up there and see if anybody's given any thought to how they're going to change their programs and their activities this season, or if you have ideas that you'd like to share with folks.
And again, if you are on video, you can just raise your hand and I will unmute you. Or if you are on the actual telephone and no video, you can push *9 to raise your hand. And then that way we can see that you want to share, and we'll unmute. Okay, so does anybody have anything that they would like to share? Nobody? Wait, hold on. Okay, everybody's good. I'll go home.
Well, that being said, then why don't, Lynn, if you have any updates on the Neighborhood Small Grants Program or thoughts that the committee has on what changes might be coming down the pipe, that would be a good place to start.
Sure. Basically, the main thing is we have extended the application deadline to May 1st. Many of you, particularly if you're in nonprofit organizations, but other groups too, I'll get the email out to the neighborhood groups soon. But many of you may have received an email just a little while ago from the Community Foundation that listed all our different grant funding opportunities and how they will be impacted. But in particular, the neighborhood application is going to be due May 1st. It's gonna push stuff back a little bit, but the committee, actually I haven't met with them yet, but we're gonna find a way to expedite applications so that we won't be that far behind schedule. But we're like everybody else, just kind of figuring out, or wondering rather, what does this all mean? Will we be able to get out? And if we are not, what does that mean for projects? Or if there's a limitation, I mean, we can come outside, but what does that mean for the type of projects we do? So again, eager to hear our thoughts about that.
Yeah. What about, Ashley, I guess, do you have any updates that you might be able to share with people about like the tool shed?
Not at this point. So as of right now, we're still, I think NEH is still waiting to see what the governor has to say about extending the stay-at-home order before then determining whether or not, just determining what our next steps are. So as of right now, we don't have any updates on the tool shed. I can say that, we had originally anticipated that we were going to open the week of April 13th, which will not be the case. Even if we stay on this current timeline of opening back up on the 13th, saying that the executive order expires on the 13th and it isn't extended, which I don't expect will be the case. But even if that were the case, we would need a couple of weeks just to kind of get our bearings back together before preparing to open the tool shed. So at this point, our tentative timeline is that first week in May. But again, I expect that it will be later than that.
Okay. One thing that that we're doing to try to keep moving forward and doing some of the work that we do, especially about the census, I got an email from the city about a phone bank because enumerators are not going door to door. to collect information like they normally would be doing at this point. But I got an email about the 20 for 20 phone bank that you could join. I'm going to show you guys a little screenshot of what it looks like. But so I got this in my email saying that I could join this 20 for 20 volunteer interest, which basically you like pledge to call 20 people and ask them if they did the census or encourage them to do the census. So I signed up, and you can call your friends, your family, neighborhood groups, whoever you want. And I can share that with people who are on this call. We could send this out through our same email list saying, if you know some folks and, friends, family, I could easily tell 20 people in my family to do the census, and they'd probably be happy that I'm calling. That's one thing that came out of this, I think, that maybe people didn't think about. Now I'm calling my grandma all the time to see how she's doing, or calling people that I maybe don't call all the time when I should have anyway. But that's just one thing that we are doing to try to keep moving some work forward. And then, of course, like having these calls. Charlotte, did you have something that you wanted to share? Or you can unmute yourself if you want.
I sent out calendars. I believe it was like a week and a half ago, because normally we do not start until planting until the last week in May. And so then I talked to a young lady yesterday, and we were thinking about doing something virtual. So just that could be an option for anybody who is out there and want to start something virtual. We just had to determine if all her students had computers or access to media. So that's how we're starting to move forward. We're not really sure. We had some group of seniors in line, and it was over 20 for the garden this year, which was going to be fantastic, and they wanted to get out. But because of this, I'm not really sure. And then the young lady who runs the McFarland House, said that it may end up being just once a week and instead of twice, like we anticipated all summer long. So I think we're just all waiting.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that,
Mhm.
Charlotte. I'm glad you mentioned that, trying to do things digitally. So if you do any type of sharing or communication or education with people in
Mhm.
neighborhood groups or with your organization, doing some videos and things like that are helpful. And you can do those from your phone. You can do like a live stream on Facebook. Like even the most technologically challenged people that I know have a Facebook somehow. Lynn's raising her hand. So even people who don't know how to like check an email can Facebook message people, and that just cracks me up. But so that people who are grandparents and everything are on Facebook. So that is probably one of the positives about Facebook, is that it does span some technological skills and age groups and stuff sometimes. If you have a smartphone, that's the only thing. Like if you have a smartphone or a computer, but if you don't, that's where we're getting into how do we help people and they don't have like a smartphone, and the libraries can't, we can't gather. So even if the library was open, you can't gather. So that's the thing. I'm kind of curious for Celeste and Jermaine, with the school district. What kind of things are you guys doing to kind of keep moving your missions forward?
So right now, like everyone else, we've experienced a bit of a rut, where we're trying to find remote activities for our service members. Right now, we do actually have a decreased number who are actually even serving. So for those of you who don't know, Flint Community School Corps is made up of direct service and indirect service. And the indirect VISTA, right now, a lot of our members have elected to take the emergency days off. So many are not serving at this time. However, we do have about 15, 14 members who are serving. Maybe only around 3 are willing to serve outside the home. But we have been discussing with other program directors how we can reach, say, retirement communities and like adopt a grandparent kind of thing. But we are still looking for more remote activities, or even activities like delivering food or helping with cleanup. But it has been a challenge, and I'm curious to hear what Jermaine has been doing over at Homes, or any ideas, because right now we're just brainstorming.
And Jermaine, are you able to share? I can hear, we can hear your, I know you said you had another meeting coming up. Jermaine, we can hear your microphone, but not you.
Oh wow.
There you go.
You hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so right now what we're doing wellness calls. So our wellness team at Homestead Academy, we're making weekly calls to the parents. So just making sure they have the resources they need. So whether it's food, water, any medical care, like we trying to make those connections with our partners, such as a Genesee health plan. So we're just still trying to make those connections, and also we have some teachers that's like reaching out to their students, just checking up on them. We have one teacher that's writing letters to her students. So we're still trying to brighten up the students' day, but we're still coming up with different ideas. So like right now, trying to figure out a plan to celebrate our students. So we had a field trip plan for Michigan Adventures. So the students that have 5 or less absence for the year, we're going to take them to Michigan Adventures, but now that's canceled. So just trying to come up with ideas on how to celebrate our students during this tough time. So
Thanks, Jermaine. One thing that I found, and then I'm going to call on Holly. She sent a message in the chat box. One thing that if you have kids that have computers or internet at home, the British Library Museum has a Harry Potter exhibit that is for free, and you can go through all the different areas of the exhibit. So if you have ever come to any meetings at International Academy, they talk about their student council and how they have a Harry Potter theme, and I was really excited. So if you need ideas for kid things, there's also like a ton of online opportunities, but that becomes the issue of like, do kids have access to the internet at their house? So anyhow, but that's one suggestion for any kids who do have access to internet. There's a Harry Potter exhibit. And then Holly wanted to share something too.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an update. I'm a census ambassador for the Neighborhood Engagement Hub, and I too signed up for the 20 for 20 census phone bank campaign. One of the things I did yesterday was I created a text bank of all of the contacts, the residents in our community that I regularly meet with. And I just sent them out a text reminding them about the census and giving the 3 ways in which that they could submit their information, just as a reminder. And then I shared that with my team members. We are also actively posting on our Facebook page for the Neighborhood Engagement Hub. So when you guys get a chance, look at that. As information about the census and the virus is made available to us, we paste it. As well as if you guys have any activities that you're trying to push out and share, those are things that we do anyway. So if you want to tag me in them or send me a message or however you would like, we'll post that as well and help you get that information out. And then as people are having virtual meetings, I'm sending invites as well for that. One of our census volunteers, Dion Freeman, is live with us. If she wants to share about her activities on yesterday at the water distribution, that would be great.
Yeah, do you know how to unmute yourself? Okay.
Good afternoon. Another team member that we had, Alonzo Laster, had let us know that there was going to be a water distribution at Greater Holy Temple yesterday. And And our team thought it would be a good idea to keep our social distance, but create a way to make sure people have went on and registered. So I made a sign that says, since it's 2020, be counted for Flint. And I just kind of walked part of the line with the sign and looked at people in their cars to see if they shook their head like, okay, yeah, we've done it. Or, okay, yeah, we know about it. And then I came across one person who did say, and I was surprised, they said that they hadn't got any notification. They thought that they kind of almost didn't really realize that the census was going on, and I was shocked. But you'll find all kinds of people everywhere. So there are still people that, even though ads are everywhere, um, that are unaware that it's going on. So I just made the suggestion that he recheck his mail, and if he didn't still find it in the mail, that he contact somebody through the computer system. So it was fun just to get out and get a little sunshine, get a little fresh air, and also get a little exercise. And so it was another reason why I wanted to do it, is to make people in the country and everywhere realize that Flint is still under a water crisis. So many people think that we are through it, everything's over, we're back to normal, and we're not. So I did later on get a lot of responses from people saying, guys, that you are still in this, from other countries and things like that. And I was like, yes, we are still under emergency management on top of COVID-19. So I just thank you guys for the opportunity to share. And I think it was a good event. And maybe as things change and move forward, we might be able to go to some other water distribution to do the same thing.
That's a really good idea. Some of the other things that, making signs and stuff, that's a really good idea. If we can't do things on the computer all the time. So that's a really good idea. And even like, making the posters and stuff, or putting things in the windows. That's a good idea. I know Talia has been doing a lot with the Facebook group that got started, and then you've been doing some advocacy letter writing. Then with Pastor Monica.
Yeah. So the Facebook group was sort of meant to be, well, sort of what it is. So resources and support. So I mean, I think hope a lot of you are on it. But it's meant to be a place for people to post local news, local where you can get food or supplies, or people asking for things, or organizations that are hosting remote events or have different needs. And then the letter, so I've been working with Jasmine Hall at the Flint Registry and a few other folks, including Pastor Monica and people at Crim, and just other people getting feedback on writing a letter to elected officials that is Flint specific. So with all the things that are happening and all the executive orders and all the sort of disaster declaration, all the funding coming in, we really want to make sure that specific needs in Flint are being met. So supporting infrastructure that already exists. So things like ramping up, like giving more support to the help centers for volunteers, making sure they have personal protective equipment. I mean, things that people are already talking about, but trying to highlight needs that are specific to our community. So we've been speaking to a lot of different people, and that letter is going to be a Google form, and we're going to circulate it hopefully over this weekend. So I can send it out. And yeah, we're hoping people can sign on either as members of organizations or as individuals. And yeah.
Great. I forgot I was on mute. Great. Thank you so much, Talia. There's a couple people on phones, and I just was curious if anybody on the phone would like to share. I know Bonnie is on the call, and then Corey's on the phone, Michelle. There's several people on phones, and I'm just curious if any of you would like to share. And you can press *6 to unmute yourself, or you can press *9 to raise your hand if you don't know how to unmute yourself, or if you just want to wait in line to share, so to speak. So *6 if you would like to share and you're just dialing in on the phone. Okay. I don't see anybody going unmuted. Maybe Lauren, I don't know.
Michael, I know that before COVID and before we were out of the office, I know that the city's planning and zoning division was doing a number of neighborhood plans and working with those neighborhood groups to identify specific projects for this year. Have you all had an opportunity to give some consideration to how those things might change in the next couple of months?
Yeah, so um, I think that we have kind of shifted our focus more towards, okay, well, how can we figure out what the planning process for these projects looks like? Um, and how do we sort of, how do we engage people if we can't be convening them all in the same place? So we've been investigating a few different venues for that. So I think we're actually, for our upcoming neighborhood planning meetings, we're going to be using Zoom to broadcast on Facebook Live. So that way we'll be able to offer a conference call, call-in number for folks who don't have access to either Facebook or um, uh, uh, phone, or any way to actually stream it on Facebook Live. They'll still be able to call in using the conference line. We're also looking at using this service called Poll Everywhere that allows you to integrate text-based poll answers into a presentation. So you can put up a slide that says, what's your top priority out of these 5 options, and then people can text in with their answer, and it will sort of live broadcast those responses. So using that as a way to still be collecting input in a format that can get a little unruly at times if you don't have good moderation, and then also still allowing for some time for public comment and people having some input. So that's how we're going to be going forward with our neighborhood planning workshops. And then for actual project implementation, we've been doing just regular old conference calls, trying to sort of figure out, okay, well, what are some projects that we can be doing in a sort of more limited capacity than what we're maybe used to with, a broader community cleanup. How do we maybe look at doing something that's a little bit more targeted with, unfortunately, we are at a point where we have to consider about limiting the reach of our projects because of social distancing. And, Ashley, I kind of hear what you're saying when you talk about, we're planning for the sort of, I don't want to say like the worst possible outcome, but you have to think ahead and not get ahead of yourself. So we've just been thinking about, okay, well, if we are stuck in this situation for a few months now, what are things that we can maybe push beyond that? And what are some things that we can still be working towards, even if we're not in the same room together. So that's kind of where we're at. Still gaming things out, but.
Thank you, Michael. That's a good point. And then there's also another thing I've been trying to do since we're sort of trying to just plan for if this is going to be an extended amount of time, and this is going to be our new normal for a little while. I've been trying to just keep track of press releases coming in from the governor's office, helping people find resources that they need. So if people are saying, well, how do I sign up for unemployment? How do I sign up for a small business loan? Does that even make sense for me? How do I use webinar system? I've never used Zoom before. People in recovery are like, how do I go to a recovery meeting? Like we meet in person. So people are asking all of these questions because it's never been necessary really for some people to use a webinar. Like us 9 to 5 people we are like, oh great, webinars all the time now. Like we always are on these things at work, but so some people it's brand new. So I'm thinking about talking to my technology team to see if they can maybe help host or share more tools for doing video chats. And then with the recent news about Zoom and their security breaches, if there's any other types of tools that people might be more comfortable with out there, just because Zoom has had some pretty big security problems. So those are some other little things that I've been doing. The governor's press releases, if you are signed up for getting those emails from Gary Jones, those have been really useful. There's a video conference at 3:30 today about unemployment workers and resources for businesses. And they are going to be doing like a Q&A, like directly from that call. Like, so you can join it and ask questions. So this is like just a little, I'll do a screen share of the information. If you're on a phone, I'll just read it to you. But they are saying basically the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity officials will be on the phone with the Unemployment Insurance Agency. So Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity and the Unemployment Insurance Agency will be on this phone call at 3:30 today. And in order to join, you do need to you do need to have a specific link. So I can copy and paste this into the chat box, and we can maybe share this out to people if they call us and say that, hey, they want to be a part of this. But essentially the topics will be, how do you file for unemployment? What are the extension and expansion benefits? Who's eligible for those? Including people who are self-employed, independent contractors. And then what are the resources for people who are our employers? So if you own a business, what kind of resources are there for you? And so that is today at 3:30. And if you need help getting to that, again, in that email we sent you, the Neighborhood Engagement Hub has offered up some people to help you with getting onto Zoom calls and stuff like that. So it may be very similar, this link. So I'm going to put this link in the chat box, but and then we can forward this email to people who maybe are not on the governor press release list too. So we can do that as well.
Yeah, I also, I shared this to the Facebook group. I also shared the link to that Facebook group that Teresa mentioned that I help manage. So that's also another place you can go, because I know sometimes things get lost in the chat or people don't, it's can be hard to save it sometimes. So,
and you should be, if you are on the app or on a computer, you can click the 3 little dots in the chat box and it'll say save chat, and you should be able to save those now. Just from last week, thank you, Holly, for letting me know that stuff wasn't turned on last week. So I was able to go and fix that. Oops. Does anybody else, Michael, or does anybody else want to share about what they're working on, or anything that maybe they need some help with or are curious about ways to do? Or
Okay, I got my hand up. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see. Oh, okay. I see it. Oh, Michael's hand is up too next. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just jumped in. Oh, this is Holly from the Neighborhood Engagement Hub. I neglected to give you some information. Our census team is also working on recreating some virtual games we can play in regards to the census, where we can host some drawings and bless residents with gift cards through to help us through the pandemic. So we want you to keep watch on our Facebook page, and we will continue to give updates about this through opportunities such as these Zoom meetings. And currently we're ending our Census Spirit Week, which we had posted, where we were just asking you to share any inspiring census testimonials you may have and post pictures, being creative of you mailing your census, filling it out, or just making a sign. We're going to extend that. You can always share that on our page, but we just wanted to increase awareness. And so we deemed this week Census Week because of the National Census Day, which was on the 1st.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I just have one other thing that sort of popped into mind is just the importance of keeping contact lists and making sure that, those are shareable with other people who you work with. We've been, we always try to keep all of that pretty updated and everything, but we found recently that it's been important for us to sort of list out who we've been able to contact, who we've heard back from, you know, making sure that people have access to materials or, you know, different sort of engagement tools ahead of a meeting, and just making sure that that all stays up to date and consistent with, you know, everybody who's making calls and shooting out emails and everything like that. So I know, Ashley, you've offered help with Google Sheets and things like that in the past. So I would definitely recommend getting on that. Now is a really good time to be beefing up those lists. So yeah, that was just a thought I had.
Kay has her hand up. You're unmuted, Kay, right?
I have another meeting at 2, so I'm gonna scoot out pretty quick. But just wanted to let everybody know that, you know, though the library is closed, we have just tons of digital resources available with your library card. And you know, our vendors have really come through for the library community nationwide. So for example, if you're doing your genealogy research on Ancestry, we used to only be able to offer that in the library, but Ancestry has expanded that so that now with your library card, you can use that from anywhere. Our Freegal streaming streaming music service, you used to be able to stream 5 hours a day. They've expanded that to 24/7. And so if people do not have a valid library card at the moment, or they can't remember their PIN, they can email us. We just posted this on Facebook at askus@fpl.info, and they can get some help, you know, retrieving their PIN number or whatever. And if you haven't had a library card in a long time, and you live in a City of Flint zip code, you can actually get an e-card right online without interacting with a librarian. Go to our website, fpl.info, and go to the browse and download. One of the options under there is get an e-card. So anyway, we have a library that's open 24/7. It's just digital. So hope people will explore that. And if you haven't started reading ebooks or downloading audiobooks, now's the time to start when you can't get to the library and get those materials. So just wanted to offer that help.
Okay, thank you. So I know we are kind of coming up on the 2 o'clock time that we did set as an end. And I know a few people have meetings that start at 2 o'clock that they need to go to. Tanae, I think, had something. Tanae?
Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to chime in as a part of an effort on the Office of the Ombudsperson's behalf. I am going to try and do like a virtual coffee hour sort of thing on Wednesdays from 9 to 10. So I welcome anyone to join. I definitely also welcome any input on the best way to make this happen. So right now, my idea is to like use the Google Hangouts platform and try to find some way to like live stream it to Facebook. I don't know if I'm trying to be too ambitious. I haven't really all the way gotten it to work yet. So I'm still working on that. So definitely if anyone has any ideas, because I'd like it to be something where folks can interact like in this platform, but also like view it on Facebook if that's what people are more comfortable with, the platform that they know best. A lot of people know live, and so you just go and click and you can watch. So that's my goal. I'm hoping to start it next Wednesday. It may be a little rough if I can get the kinks worked out. But just my goal is to try to keep folks engaged, try to stay, you know, in the pulse of what's going on in the city. I'm hoping not to use it as a platform to file complaints, and I'm going to try to make it clear, but you can't always control folks and what they do, but I'll just try to redirect them. But I just wanted more of a space just to talk and brainstorm and, you know, just talk about the city and what's going on and what we're seeing. And so definitely, if any of you folks would like to join, like I said, definitely, I'd love to have you Wednesday 9 to 10. And definitely, if you have any ideas on how I can make this thing successful and actually work, I'd also welcome those ideas as well. So thank you.
Yeah. So Tanae, on Zoom, on Zoom there is a live stream option.
Okay.
So you can live stream on Zoom. I'm not sure if it goes to Facebook or if it's just that you can have like I'm not really sure how that works because I've never done it, but I know when I set up a meeting, it says, can this be live streamed? So I think there is a way. I've just never done it. I'm wondering, does Michael, do you know? I know Michael does a lot with technology. I know that he's pretty technical person. And then we have a tech team here too that might be able to help.
I'm sorry, I just was dealing with a cat issue,
that's
so
okay.
apologies for that. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing in the planning division is to use Zoom to live stream to Facebook. I think you do need an account, like a paid account for that. But yeah, you can definitely do that in Zoom. I think there might be some add-in or add-ons that would allow you to do that with the Google Hangout. I'm not entirely sure about that, but yeah, that's going to be our plan so that people will still be able to call in using the Zoom line, as well as using the the Facebook Live like comment section to engage people as well. So that's our plan.
So you might want
and we can talk more about that today if you want to shoot me a line.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. You might want to just reach out to Michael. But I know I would be interested in being part of that, part of the call and everything. Maybe Michael can help you with the technical part of it. And Ashley probably would be interested in being on that too, I'm sure. And then I want to see if anybody has their hand up at all, because Dion has her hand up. Dion, did you want to share, or was that from earlier? Might have been. Was that from earlier?
I'm doing too much. I had a question about, once we're off, is there a way for us to look back on the chat stream?
Yes.
Okay. Because
I'm gonna save the recording and the chat, and I'm gonna send that out to everybody that we sent the email to originally. So some of the people who were on the call last week couldn't make it this week. They'll be able to get that too. And then, Holly and I have been talking a little bit in the chat too about internet access. Comcast is offering like 2 months free of internet access for people. And then Holly had an idea about, we have a lot of these like empty parking lots and wondering if people can use parks and stuff and being socially distant, but still use internet if there's internet access at some of these open spaces, like outdoor spaces. And then the community ed team said when they are doing their wellness phone calls with their population that they can also provide them with information about the internet access opportunity. So, so if any, and Ashley, right before she had to get off the call for 2 o'clock, but she also said maybe we can create a resource sheet that we can share to community members and print it, maybe post it on doors if we're able to do that safely, and then, or even just share it on the internet, or maybe even put it in the mail if we can do that safely, like with our own mailing materials that we maybe had in stock that we know have been in quarantine. Let's see. Mona said, oh yes, we should mention, Mona, do you have audio yet? I'm gonna you have to unmute yourself, I think. Do you have audio?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Mona. So
Hi.
Mona had something that she brought up in the chat box.
Yeah, so Mayor Neely is trying to address and I'm not speaking for him, but I saw an article that he's trying to address the fact that people are not all practicing social distancing
Right.
like we should, right? And so what's happening in Flint is that people are gathering outside in places like parks at night. So daytime that's cool. I think what he's trying to do is curb some of when people aren't practicing social distancing, people are just hanging out together. And so the curfew is going into effect tonight. So basically, please stay indoors from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. You know, maybe adjust your evening walk time or morning walk time. But I think it does come with a pretty hefty fine. So like this is going to be enforced in the city, and really it's for your protection, it's for your family's protection. There's, you know, we just really have to stop the spread of COVID. So it's for a good reason. And please know that.
All right, thanks, Mona. So the last thing was just more thinking through some ideas about internet access. So Holly had a few that she put in the chat box. I'm gonna save our call. The call has been recorded, so I'm gonna save that and share it with the group. And I'm also going to save and share the chat box with the group. So yeah, I think just thinking through some of the ideas of how can we get more internet access to people if we can. I think maybe that's something we can be thinking about over the next week. And then I know we're planning on trying to have these calls as often as people are still coming to them and are interested. So we'll likely have another neighborhood check-in next Friday, and maybe we can talk a little bit about how some of the ideas that we've shared just at this meeting, this phone call, have kind of progressed, and if anybody's has any kind of challenges and things they need help with. I think Mona has her hand up. Now that she has audio, she wants to talk some more.
Yeah, a question. You know, I know at least one neighborhood group wants to meet by conference call, and I work closely with them, so I'm going to be providing like a call-in number. And you know, I wonder if there's anybody reaching out to different heads, like leads for neighborhood groups, to say, hey, here's some options for keeping the conversations going.
Yeah.
You know, here's a list you can distribute to your members. Like I think some of these links are extremely helpful, because you know people all over the community are struggling with these same issues around unemployment or just, you know, food access and water and so on. So
I believe that Holly, Michelle, and I think Promise, and then I think Ashley's neighborhood liaisons have been doing some calls to their particular neighborhood groups that they work with. But if there are groups that they can't get in touch with, maybe we can start looking at that too. And my AmeriCorps members, I think, would be willing to help. And Celeste said that if there is a need for some extra support for some of her members who can do things off-site, I think she would be willing to have them do some phone calls too. I know some of the community ed sites, they have been wanting their schools to have a stronger connection with the neighborhoods. So maybe that would be a good first step for them. And then Talia is sending a link in the Facebook or in the chat box. And we'll share all the stuff in an email. I might work on an email this weekend and just have the links like in that email to this group. Like, here's the resources that we've found so far. But yeah, if you all are open to it, I think we'll probably meet again next Friday at 1:00 and just kind of share where we all are, if anything's progressed, or if we're all just getting stir crazy and just want to see somebody else's face. And then Tanae, once you get your like live stream stuff up and running, once you know for sure you're going to do it and everything, I'd be happy to share that out too. That would be good. Does anybody have any last words that they want to share? I know we're kind of over our time, so I just want to honor that. Anybody else? Alrighty. I don't see any hands up for the people on the phone, and nobody's waving at me from their video. So I'm going to assume everybody is good with this conversation. Thank you all so much for being on the call. We had 25 people participate today, so that's pretty fantastic. Thank you guys. Appreciate you all. Stay safe. Practice all the guidelines. Stay Stay safe, please. Bye. Good to see you all. Bye.